Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. And I would like to welcome Her Grace Sravaniya Dasi, who is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And I would like to introduce you, say a little bit about you. So Sravaniya Dasi was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and throughout her life, she has been interested in metaphysics and spirituality. She became a vegetarian at the age of 17 and began studying Eastern classics to understand consciousness and reality. She took formal initiation from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in 1971. And she spent decades studying classical Sanskrit texts in yoga ashrams around the world. She was instrumental in getting Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is translated into Chinese. In 2006, she published a study guide for the English version of Srila Prabhupada's seminal work entitled Basic Bhagavad Gita, an Introduction to Bhagavad Vedanta. Now the revised 2017 second edition is available in ebook format. So I think that's good to know if someone would like to read it or use it. She's an author of many other books in which she connects the underlying truths of Western philosophy with the reliable scriptural evidence of the East in an easily understandable way, informative, thought-provoking, and fun. So she published the following books. I just named few: Karma and Reincarnation, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People, A Garland of Shared Stories, I think. Sorry if I wrote it wrongly.
Sacred.
Sacred, yeah. Thanks. A Garland of Sacred Stories from Bhagavad Purana. I'm missing an S. Blessings and Lessons on the Bhakti Path. Alchemy, Gemstones and Planets Anew. Transformation and Transcendence. Basic Yoga Sutras, Dinner Practice, and many other books. She also taught Hatha Yoga in the Far East since 1983, and in early 90s she was the first professional yoga teacher in Hong Kong, Yoga Alliance ERYT 500 instructor, and continuing education provider. She conducted yoga teacher training and certifications in Hong Kong since 2004. In 2022, she is teaching philosophy courses at Pure Yoga International. You have also been an astrological and psychic consultant since 1992, and your clients include people from all walks of life and diverse cultures, and you were featured in a variety of publications, including the Asian Wall Street Journal, the South China Morning Post, Hong Kong Standard, Hare Krishna Magazine, and others, and has appeared on CNBC as well as the local television and radio. So you have a vast knowledge and a vast experience in presenting Krishna consciousness in many ways. So today I did introduce you, but I would like to know more. So if you can tell us a little bit like how you came to Krishna consciousness, and were you inspired by the philosophy, in which way, and maybe what was the first book that you encountered on your spiritual path?
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to come, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to share with everybody. So you're asking me to tell how I was inspired to join. Okay. Well, apparently it was unfinished business from my past life. That's it. Okay. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 6th chapter, 44th verse, Krishna says that by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist striving for yoga stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So I was attracted to philosophy and the study of the Vedic literature. I didn't know it was called Vedic. I just was interested. I was 17 years old, and none of my friends were into Eastern classics. They're all into rock and roll. Okay. I did not personally know any Hindus at all. It was like a subliminal suggestion that had been implanted in my subconscious. And there was a voice in my head saying, read Bhagavad Gita. What you want to know is there. So those are, a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation, but my spontaneous attraction to Vedic literature cannot be explained in any other way than to accept it as some kind of unfinished business from the past. The first book that I got was my brother. He had a book that he got from the St. Louis Art Museum in Forest Park. And somebody on the street had given it to him. Of course, it was a devotee doing book distribution. And it was The Topmost Yoga. And my brother told me, it's in my drawer, the second drawer down. So I went and I found it underneath his clothes, and I opened it and I started reading it. It was Prabhupada's book. And that was very interesting. I took a look at it. So that's how I first met Srila Prabhupada, was in the drawer. I pulled it out.
That's very nice and very inspiring. And
I'll tell you more when you ask me during the interview.
So I also wanted to ask you, so this was your first encounter with with Srila Prabhupada's book, but you were in search for, because we talked before and I read some things like your notes, and you said that so you were so interested in yoga that you asked your brother to give you advice where to go, and he sent you to the Hare Krishna temple, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you came there and what happened?
Sure. Right. Well, I had been, I was reading books by Be Here Now by Ram Dass, Swami Vishnu Devananda's complete illustrated book of yoga. I checked out the Yoga Sutras by I.K. Taimni from the Ferguson County Library, because I lived in Ferguson. And I wanted to understand consciousness and reality, because psychology just wasn't enough. I wanted to understand, what is consciousness? What is reality? So I asked my brother if he knew of any yoga places, because yoga was not popular back then. And he said that, and there's no internet back then either, only yellow pages. So he told me there was something downtown, and I found the address. So I went to the Krishna Center on a Thursday night, and they were about to have Bhagavad Gita class. It was a small temple, only a few devotees, and there was only one brahmachari who gave the class, and I was the only person in the room. So there's one brahmachari is giving class, I'm listening, right? It's Srila Prabhupada's small purple-colored abridged Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I don't remember the verse or the topic, but when I heard it, I realized that this is what I have been looking for. I immediately realized it. After class, somehow a devotee asked me if I'd like to stay, and I said yes. So I was 18 years old. I'd graduated high school the year before. I was in between jobs, so everything just fell into place. And I joined the temple and chanted 16 rounds the next morning. So hearing from Srila Prabhupada was a life-changing event that caused me to take the road less traveled.
Yeah, I actually I like this notion of a road less traveled, because can you tell us a little bit because I'm also interested, because like the spiritual path is actually not the road that many people take. That's why it's called the road less traveled, right?
Yeah, not only that, but if you talk about it to people who are not familiar with it, they think you're nuts. They think you're crazy. This is why this kind of knowledge has always been occult. Occult means hidden. Why is it hidden? Because it doesn't go along with everybody else. And so it's considered a threat. It's considered insanity, this, that, whatever. But so you don't talk about it with them. Yeah. So hermetic sealed hermetic means sealed, and so this kind of knowledge is usually kept closed.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that because Lord Chaitanya is freely handing it out to everybody.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for the explanation. So you actually hear what you were saying, that you joined the temple at the age. Yeah. Wow. And how come, I mean, from that time when you were 18, how did you end up in Hong Kong? Or did you live in various ashrams in America or maybe all over the world and then came to Hong Kong? Or can you tell us?
Then I went to Detroit. Then I joined Vishnu Jan Swami's traveling roadshow, Radha Damodar traveling roadshow. And we were in the traveling roadshow for several months and then ended up in Brooklyn, New York. And that was the end of that. And let's see. I won't tell you all the details, but let's see. So from New York, I went to Bombay. Mm-hmm. And in Bombay, I was there when Srila Prabhupada came and finished the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was there 2 months. So I got to clean his room with the other girls. When you see these pictures of the men with their dandas out there on the beach in Juhu with Prabhupada going for a morning walk, yeah, all the women are cooking and cleaning back at the temple. So we're cleaning the temple and we're cleaning Prabhupada's room. And I remember that every morning he would have Chanakya Pandit's sayings, the Niti Shastra, on his desk. And it was there every day. And I said, wow, he really likes this. He likes Chanakya. So I just noticed that.
Yeah.
So then so I was in an arranged marriage in Detroit. It didn't last for more than a year. And he dumped me, and so I left. I went to Bombay. And then I met another guy who was interested. And so I thought about it, and I realized that women by themselves don't get much done in ISKCON. Really, you have to be married, you know. So I thought, well, maybe this is what I should do. And so he was appointed to go to Hong Kong, and I went and I assisted with everything. And that was about a year, back in 1975. Mm-hmm. And then, so I was there for a while. And then we were in Taiwan in the 80s. And then I got a divorce. And then I went to Hong Kong again in 1990 and started a yoga business, Body and Soul Limited.
So you were instructor of yoga also, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I got a certification from Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center from Swami Vishnu Devananda. 22 years after I started reading his book, I met him. That was amazing. That was in the Bahamas.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then in Hong Kong, you said that you also helped with the translation of the Bhagavad Gita as it is into Chinese language, right?
Yes, we had a really nice devotee, Yasumati Sutta Das. He was very dedicated to translating. So the way I helped was I worked and made money to pay the rent and pay for the food. Mm-hmm. So that's how I helped with the translation. Was I supported Yasumati Sutta.
Yeah, that's also very important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing a little bit about it. So, I mean, I'm certain because of what I read about you and gave like a summary of the introduction of your life and what you shared with us. I know that since you were an author of so many books, that Srila Prabhupada's books especially had a major impact on your life, because most of your books are based on the philosophy that he presented.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so therefore, in that sense, I would like that you share with us, like, why do you feel it's important to read Srila Prabhupada's books daily? or some people don't read it daily, but at least very often. Like, what are your experiences? What are some things that you would like to share as an inspiration?
Okay. Reading Prabhupada's books is what real sadhu sangha is. It's association with the pure devotee by reading his books. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, there's a verse, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoy Sadhu Sangha. Krishna Prema Janme Teho Puna Mukhya Anga. The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. Okay, so this is the real association with the sadhu. Now, there was one American classicist academic writer named Gilbert Hyatt, and he said something I'll never forget. He said, books are not lumps of lifeless paper, but minds alive on the shelves. It's true, okay? Reading a book is actual association with the person who wrote it, unhindered by time and space. Srila Prabhupada is an Uttama Adhikari and the topmost level of realized pure devotee. So we become like our association. That's why it's important to read Prabhupada's books every day.
With whom we associate, we actually acquire his or her qualities. So,
yes.
That's very nice. So that's why it's very important to always be in an association of Srila Prabhupada every day through his books. And this is like something that devotees emphasize because Srila Prabhupada said it. He said that he lives forever in his books. So do you have any personal realization that you would like to share regarding that statement? And especially because now you shared about your life a little bit, and we were with him in a way. So you had his physical presence, and you also understand the present through the books. So does it give you nourishment or comfort in that sense, and in which way? So if you can say a little bit about that.
Well, sometimes when I'm getting ready to give a Srimad Bhagavatam lecture, now I give a lecture 3 times a month at ISKCON Hong Kong. So, and I've known these devotees for decades. I've known them for so long, and they're wonderful. Yeah, they're like my brothers and sisters, and they're all Chinese, but I don't feel the difference, they're really terrific. So sometimes I'll be studying for a Srimad Bhagavatam lecture I'm getting ready to give. I always prepare. I never just turn up and, wing it. I always have notes because I also have a translator. Then the translator needs to know what I'm going to talk about. So I make sure that she gets it a few days ahead of time. So I'm reading Prabhupada's teachings on a certain point. And then when I'm doing some tasks around the house, I'll listen to some short lecture that he gave, and he'll be talking about what I am researching. Sometimes he quotes the exact same verse that I'm working on. Everything is in sync. It feels like support, and it's very comforting.
Yeah, like the real proof that Srila Prabhupada is always there.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't feel like I'm alone.
Yeah. And sometimes, people say, just because, that's why I'm asking you this question, like, because you had the personal association of Srila Prabhupada and you have realizations of how it is to associate with him through his Vani, so his instructions, his books, and so on. But sometimes people say, like, well, it's not the same. Like, you've met Srila Prabhupada, so you had this impression of him, but we didn't. We only have books. What would you say?
The fact is that you can see him in videos. You can see him in videos. You can hear him. I mean, everybody right now is so lucky that you can associate with Prabhupada with one click. You just go and listen to an audio. You just go and watch a video. They're everywhere if you just know, the platforms to look. And it's just like being with him. And it is being with him. And the fact of the matter is that I had very little association with him, very little personal, but I did see him a couple of times, few times, but not much. And but that's all right, because I got to listen to him all the time. I got to read. I got to. It was terrific, really. And now I can see the videos. The videos are a lot better than the photographs, because you can actually see how animated he is and how friendly he is, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that is true. And I also like the memories of Srila Prabhupada when other disciples talk about him. So
yeah,
I also have this experience of the impression that I can say that I know Srila Prabhupada. I mean, as much as I can know him just through, as you said, these videos and of course books and sharing with other devotees. So that's how we can know Srila Prabhupada, and there's no excuse that we don't follow him and get to know him through his books.
Prabhupada didn't go to every temple. He would go to New York, he would go to Los Angeles, and he would go to London, but he didn't go to St. Louis. You know, he didn't go. I don't remember him ever going to Detroit, or Columbus. I don't remember any of that. So, I mean, there were cities that he never went to, and we all just had to rely on listening to his lectures and reading his books.
Thank you for sharing that. And what inspires you to read daily from Srila Prabhupada's books?
Well, he initiated me via long distance. I was in St. Louis, he was in Europe, and he sent me my japa beads and an initiation letter in the mail. And in that letter, he told me to keep on chanting and reading my books, for this will give you the strength to preach this message more and more. Now, he told me the name Sravaniya. Sravaniya means the Vedic literatures. It means that which is to be heard. So I'm getting this, finger of God telling me, okay, you're supposed to speak, you're supposed to, okay, I better read. And so those were my marching orders. Reading is learning. Writing is understanding. Teaching. That is when you really, really get it, really master it. And I began teaching yoga philosophy. I put together visual presentations to make the knowledge organized and comprehensible to the listeners. And the students understood it. During my latest yoga teachers training course at Pure Yoga International, all the students bought my books, which present Prabhupada's Bhagavad Vedanta. And the majority of the students' answers on the written exam were 95 to 100% correct.
That's wonderful.
They really understood the knowledge, and it proved that I was conveying Prabhupada's message successfully. And these were not ABC, choose, is the answer A, B, C, or D? No, it was written answers. They had to write, and they got 95 to 100.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it inspires us if we see that others to whom we try to, with whom we try to share this knowledge, when they understand it in this way. And yeah, it's a very nice example. And have you found reading to be important in your preaching? Of course you did, but if you can say a little bit more how this reading of Prabhupada's books have been.
Sure. Prabhupada's teaching from Shastra is explained to us in a way that we can understand. And I love the fact that he was a businessman. He had a job, he worked, he had a family, so he was really in touch with real life. So he could explain things in real life language. And so what we learn from him is the basis of proper action. Shastra is the basis of proper action and of experiencing life on the spiritual level. And it's part of the watering process of the plant of bhakti. Plant needs to be watered daily. So chanting and reading every day makes our loving devotional service to the Lord grow. And the most important is chanting, but reading provides the conviction and the motivation for continuing to chant despite all the obstacles we may encounter in life. Mm. If we put the principles into practice, they work effectively. Mm. This is the basis of conviction.
Yeah. You're totally right about these things. And I also heard, in conversations with a lot of devotees, whether they're experienced more or less, they would say that the ones who stick to the philosophy, of course chanting, but the ones who stick to the philosophy and who try to understand the philosophy, they are the ones who stay. Because as you said, like that, it gives you this conviction and motivation to do it for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So we are also advised to read in order that we see the world through the eyes of the scripture, which is expressed as Shastra Chakshu. So can you give us some example from your own life, how this might look like?
Mm-hmm. Okay. The law of karma basically means that everyone gets what they deserve. That's what karma means, law of karma. Okay, according to their past actions. Now, a lot of people don't want to know about this.
Yeah.
It dumps the responsibility on them, okay? But based on this premise, there are no victims in this world, only karmically reprimanded former predators. Whatever happens to someone is what they themselves did to someone else in a past life. Seen from this perspective, everything in the world is happening just as it should. And the only thing any one of us can control is his individual response to what is happening. Mm-hmm. So as an aspiring devotee of Lord Krishna, when I find myself in an unexpected or seemingly undesirable situation, I can understand that's part of the process of removing my material attachments. This is anartha nivritti. Mm-hmm. The purification stage of bhakti where the dirty things of the heart are cleansed. I take it as necessary, and instead of resisting, I ask myself, what am I to learn from this? Mm-hmm. When I learn the lesson, it doesn't happen again. I pass the exam and go to the next grade. Now, this is really important for devotees to understand. So I actually wrote a book about this, Blessings and Lessons on the Bhakti Path, mm-hmm. and it's all about anartha nivritti. Mm-hmm. And so that everyone can understand that Krishna is purifying your material desires so that you don't have them anymore and you can come back. Yeah. Maya is not punishing you.
Yeah. That's very important what you said. Like, mm-hmm. Actually, sometimes when we talk about how to see the world through the eyes of the scriptures, we talk about many things like, oh, maybe we don't see this or that. I'm just saying now from what I've heard, like we can experience maybe that there is life on other planets, all these like external things that we see through the scriptures that we usually don't see. But actually, I like your point of saying that actually seeing through the eyes of the scripture means taking responsibility for your own life and being prepared to accept things that are happening in our life as mercy and purification. So that's really, really interesting. And mm-hmm. And that's why we read the scriptures, so that we can actually understand our position. But in this case, I find it very interesting that it actually talks about our own responsibility. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. It's very. So what do you think are the benefits of reading Prabhupada's books regularly?
Okay. The benefit is improved practice, sadhana, more taste and more inclination for executing the process. And it accelerates becoming fixed up, which is called nishta, fixed in devotional service to Krishna. So that you're not, well, I like it. No, I don't know. Today I don't, no, you're really fixed up and you know this is the real stuff. Um, there's 9 stages of advancement in Krishna consciousness. And I really like these Sanskrit terms because they are so precise. They tell exactly all these metaphysical, unmanifested things. They explain it very clearly. So this is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. 9 stages of devotional service. First one is Shraddha, faith. Second one is Sadhu Sangha, association with devotees. And the third one is Bhajan Kriya, seriously taking up the process of devotional service. So that's when you get initiated. Initiation, by the way, is the beginning. It's not, the end. And Anartha Nivritti comes next. And boy, seems like an endless plateau of a desert. When is this going to end? But it's necessary. You just have to stick with it. And then Nishta, steadiness in Krishna consciousness. After that comes a deep taste for Krishna consciousness, ruchi. But after that comes attachment for Krishna, and then emotional attachment. That's bhava. So there's a attachment, knowing that I should do that, but then there's emotional attachment. I can't stop doing it. I'm so attached. What will Krishna think? Always thinking about Krishna. Bhava. And then when bhava becomes intense, it's prema. So these 9 stages of advancement, they're all necessary. This is how it goes. And you got to go through all of them to get to, so we got to go through Anartha Nivritti to get to Nishta. How bad do you want this? Do you really want to log out of the material world? You know how when you try to log off the bank, online banking, it goes, are you sure you want to log off? And you say, yes, I want to log off. So Anartha Nivritti is, you really want to leave the material world? You sure there's nothing here you don't want? That's what Anartha Nivritti is about. And then you get Nishta. So I just love that these Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I would never have been able to understand this without Srila Prabhupada,
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
you can see where you're at.
Yeah. Assess and everything. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing. And this definitely helps us. And I also, I was reading today, it was on social media, actually, some post, but it was from Prabhupada, who was speaking to this one lady. And it's connected somehow with reading also, because he asked her, she was asking him questions about surrender to Krishna. And then he asked her, well, will you surrender? And she just said yes. I mean, she was not a devotee or anything. She was just some person from the audience. And he told her, well, you will not surrender, actually, even though you say it. Because in order to surrender, you need to know to whom you are surrendering and what are the qualifications and who this person is. So in that sense, he was talking about, if you want to surrender to Krishna, then you need to know who Krishna is. And it's connected with this that you said, Anartha Nivritti also, are you ready to leave the material world and to go on the stage of Nishta in full Krishna consciousness? And be dedicated to Krishna. But you can only do that if you get to know who Krishna is. And how can you do that if you don't read? So
yeah. Well, Krishna, he says, once you leave, you can't come back.
Yes.
Yeah. So you sure you want to leave? Because you're not coming back. You go back home. This is our suffering is very troublesome to Krishna. So
yeah, sometimes people always say, why is God allowing these things? But he doesn't want those things. It's this personal responsibility that you said. And that's why it's very important also to understand reincarnation and karma and all those things.
Yeah.
And you wrote a book about it, right?
Yeah, I did. Try to make it understandable to people.
Yeah.
And I also have it in Chinese too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we got to translate it into Chinese. So this is Karma and Reincarnation in Chinese.
Wow. Really that looks wonderful.
The great snake of time is the dragon.
Yeah.
chasing the pearl of great price, which is the living entity who is burning with material desires.
And it's like your book is a blessing from also Srila Prabhupada's books, because all the knowledge, I mean, most of the knowledge that you gave there came from the inspiration that you had from reading Prabhupada's books and following the process.
It's all based on Prabhupada's teachings. I just try to make it simple. This is the Karma and Reincarnation book.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that one interesting also. We'll get one day. Thank you for sharing this. So there's another question from our question bank that we like to ask our guests. Can you explain how reading is supposed to sharpen our intelligence?
Okay. Yes. Reading Prabhupada's books explains reality. Okay, this is called praman. Praman is a Sanskrit word which means real knowledge, truth. It means truth. It's correct knowledge verified by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Okay, so that's the check and balance. And then we can see if our attitudes or perspectives coincide with the knowledge we're reading, or if our perspectives deviate from what we're reading. Sanskrit word svadhyaya means self-study or examination. So does what I do in life follow what is being recommended in teachings? And if not, how can I correct myself? So this is sharpening intelligence. Now, judgment and discrimination are functions of the intelligence. Mm-hmm. Right? But these two are deprecated in postmodern society. It's as if we're being admonished to switch off our brains and just do what we're told or what we're coerced to do. But if I consider carefully before doing something, what will be the outcome? Is this correct behavior that leads to elevation? Or is this unacceptable and detrimental? Discrimination between right and wrong is necessary before making a judgment as to what I choose to do. We are bombarded daily with information, most of which is vikalpa or viparyaya, which is hearsay, gossip, propaganda, or actually inverted knowledge. You say, this is really good for you. You should do this. And you find out there's a whole bunch of side effects to it. So these are not in our best interests. But if we turn toward real knowledge and utilize it by practice, we will be eternally benefited.
Yeah. Thank you. I like this point very much because it actually says that reading sharpens the intelligence. And then in our practical life, we know how to behave, what to do, what are our actions, like how to live this life. And from my experience, many devotees and generally people in the world, they ask themselves how to live, what to do. So therefore they take advices. But devotees are also sometimes very lost. And then they search for here and there, like what to do. But actually, it's very simple. If we want to understand what to do and how to act in life, we just have to read and sharpen this tool that was given to us by Krishna. And then there's this Paramatma, also aspect of him where we can hear actually God and also know how to act. And that also comes through reading in a way. And reading is also purification. Yeah.
Yeah. When intelligence saves us from unnecessary trouble. So what is unnecessary trouble? In my practical experience, it is trouble I cause myself by not doing the right thing.
That's very nice. Yeah.
So I should do the right thing and I'll save myself trouble. Okay. Unnecessary trouble is doing the wrong thing, even though I know I shouldn't, you know. So I have to do the right thing. So have you noticed that the word wrong is not used anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody uses the word wrong. It's not right and wrong anymore. It's right and left. So, you know, right and wrong.
Yeah.
Right is elevating, wrong is degrading. But they've changed it in modern society, and they changed it to right and left. They made them on the same level. And guess what happens next? Yeah. The wrong stuff is what is propagated, and the right stuff is deprecated. Just like that.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much. I mean, I really like the points because they're very practical. Like all these questions, like why it's important to listen to Srila Prabhupada, to read about Srila Prabhupada and all this knowledge. It's very important practically for our spiritual life and for personal responsibility on how to live life.
It's up to you. You got to think for yourself. And, Krishna is instructing Arjuna. We're the fly on the wall. He's actually instructing us. Yeah. And so he's talking to Arjuna, but he's really talking to us. And then we can find the right thing at the right time to help us make our decisions.
Thank you very much. And how do you ensure that you have enough time every day to read Srila Prabhupada's books, if you read them every day? Or how do you ensure your time to read Prabhupada's books? What would be some tips that you could...
Okay. I have a paper and a pen, and I make a daily schedule, and I schedule my reading, and I prioritize. I have tasks. Everybody has tasks, but you write the task down, and then this I have to get done today. Put a star next to it, and that one I have to get. You can only really get 3 things done a day. And everything else, okay, I'll line it up and I'll schedule it for the next few days. Schedule, prioritize, make your task list, and this should be on there, So if you put it on there, you'll get it done. Write it down, you'll get it done. Now, for me to read Prabhupada's books every day, I do research for my lectures and my writing from 3:00 a.m. to 5:00 a.m. every day. I get up at 2:30, and I'm in the seat at 3, and there's no distractions. Everybody else is asleep, and it's a great time for inspiration and for hearing the higher self within. And during lunch, I listen to audio recordings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Right now, I'm re-listening to Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the Teachings to Sanatana Goswami. That's a very, very long list of chapters for Sanatana. There's only one for Rupa Goswami. But then Rupa wrote everything in Nectar Devotion. So it's all there. But it's fascinating to sit and listen. And I heard something today, and I can't remember the Sanskrit term, but it was told by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatan that Krishna's form is an emotional form of Godhead, and Narayan, Vishnu's form, is not that emotional. And I said, oh, it's more official, huh? And I can't remember the Sanskrit names, but boy, that is really true. Krishna's form is very emotional. It causes all kinds of feelings. But Narayan, he's so strict, He's like the CEO.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yes, sir, because he's got a club, and a Sudarshan chakra. Yeah. Now watch out.
And can I ask, I asked this for myself. When do you go to sleep? Just that I know, like,
when do I go to sleep?
Yes.
Yeah, 7:30 a.m. 7:30 p.m.
Cool, like that. No, I like it. When your schedule and that everything should be scheduled. It reminds me of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he had a very good schedule where he could accomplish absolutely everything with his work and studying and writing of the books. So definitely, you're also a good example of how you want to do things. You schedule things, yeah. So
you gotta have your sleep, and then if you have your sleep, then you can do everything properly. But if you don't sleep enough, I can't do anything well.
Yeah. No, me too. That's why I asked you, when do you go to sleep? So,
well, here in Hong Kong, the place kicks into gear at 8 o'clock p.m. I mean, everybody gets started and they're all busy and doing stuff until like 2 in the morning. So I'm getting up when they're going to bed.
yes.
And so we travel on the bus. People are sitting on the bus and they're going like this.
Yeah.
They've fallen asleep on the bus, you know. I saw a couple of people fall out of the seat. They were so tired.
Everything inversed. And it's also like that verse from the Bhagavad Gita, like, what is the night?
Night of all beings is a time of awakening and self-control. That's so true.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in Bombay and I would get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and 1:30 a.m. Prabhupada's light was on in his room. He was writing at 1:30 a.m. And not just one day, every day. And I said, wow, he gets up 1:30 and he's writing. Wow. I was so impressed.
Yeah. Amazing. And can you tell us what is your favorite book or chapter or pastime or purport that you like from Prabhupada?
I have a few. I really, really love Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapters 1 through 3, where Uddhava is talking to Vidura, remembrance of Lord Krishna, where he's talking about all the different things that Krishna did. It's kind of a summary.
Yes.
It's fascinating. And the prayers by Queen Kunti, terrific, absolutely fabulous. And Uddhava visits Vrindavan. And Radharani is talking to the bee. Love that. It's just really, those are my faves.
Yeah. That's very beautiful. And how do you overcome obstacles to reading Srila Prabhupada's books, such as lack of time or some distractions, when you encounter lack of taste or inspiration? If you can tell us.
Okay. Lack of time, as I mentioned, is schedule your tasks and make this one of your tasks. That's how you know, we all have, you have to just put it in the task list and do it on time. Be your own boss. And being your own boss means you got to kick your own, you know what. You know, you have to do what you said you're going to do. Now, to presence of distractions, well, we make our own choices. It's important. If it's important to you, you'll make time for it. If it's not important, you'll make an excuse. And if you're good at making excuses, you won't be good for much else either. That's Benjamin Franklin said that. And he's right. So don't make an excuse. Do it. Just do it. A lack of taste or inclination or confidence. Okay. I'm not a feminist, but I don't accept that women are less intelligent than common businessmen and workers. I don't accept that. We can understand as well as anybody else these days. All right? Carly Fiorina ran her own business. Hewlett Packard, Chanel, Coco Chanel ran her own business. I got to tell you something that she said. Coco Chanel had to work with men. She had to work with men all the time. Now, you know, Chanel, that's the clothing and the perfume and, you know. So she said, once you know that men are like children, you know everything.
Yeah.
That's what she said. So she when she dealt with men, she had to treat them like they were children and, you know, give them the goodies and be nice to them and, you know, but draw the line and it's just too much. I couldn't believe it. Okay. So, you know, don't listen to this. Read anyway. All right. Memory is one of the virtues of women. Among women, Krishna says, I'm fame, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, devotion, and patience. So when you see those qualities in a woman, that's the manifestation of Krishna's characteristics. Oh my goodness, she's so patient. Oh my goodness, she speaks so well. Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Come on, girls, you can read. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you. Yeah. Lack of incentive or inspiration. If there were courses and examinations and certifications, then that might be an incentive for devotees to read. But you just have to do it, because it's really, and it's an accelerator. You want your devotional service to accelerate to ruchi and nishta, and read. Okay, so that's some incentives.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, these are practical tips on how to motivate oneself and how to get into the books. I mean, sometimes it's very difficult. I like to read, but there are also some periods of time where I don't know, I just don't do it. But then I feel the lack of it. And then when I start reading again, then I'm like, wow, why didn't I do it every day? So yeah, we just have to discipline ourselves also.
That's right. Be your own boss and kick your own rear end.
Yeah, personal responsibility. I mean, that's really important. And that's something that...
Look in the mirror and shake your finger at your mind and say, you messed up. You didn't read today. You know you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I told you you're supposed to do that. You know, rascal mind will make excuses. It's a rascal mind.
Yeah, that's true. And okay, so you know that Prabhupada, he left so many books. And some of them are easier to read, some are not. Because some they have a lot of philosophy and they're very heavy for people to understand.
Can I ask you for an example of what you think is heavy philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I remember when I started reading Prabhupada's books, I didn't understand them. And yes, some books helped. But in the end, if you start reading it, then you get it. It's like you just have to sometimes finish the chapter to understand what is it all about, and then you understand what you didn't understand at the beginning. No, but what people are saying is like that, oh, I cannot give Bhagavad Gita to someone new because this person cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. Better I give him, I don't know, perfect questions, perfect answers, because it's quite simply written. Or I don't know, Science of Self-Realization, because it's like an introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. And if I give them Srimad Bhagavatam and especially Chaitanya Charitamrita, they won't understand anything. So these are some points that people...
I agree. You got to start small. It's true. Yeah.
Anyway,
too much. Yeah. You don't want to put them. Yeah. You don't want to put them off. But not all of the books, as you just said, not all the books are heavy duty. So I think that, first of all, become familiar. If somebody's really interested in philosophy, they should become familiar with Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we learn easiest what interests us the most. So here's an example. When I learned how to speak Chinese, I just learned phrases and expressions that I use every day. Right? And it was really easy to learn those because I use them every day. And they were the most relevant to my life. So then learning Chinese was easy. And then from there, I expanded and learned more. In the same way, when I first looked at Bhagavad Gita, I went through the names of the chapters to see what interested me. Chapter 13 jumped off the page, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. I went straight to there and I read it. Same with Srimad Bhagavatam. Read what interests you. Make notes. If you can, write about it. Like journal what you're thinking about that. Talk about it. Find someone who you can actually talk about it with. When I picked up now this is the same thing that you just said. When I first picked up Teachings of Lord Chaitanya back in 1971, I saw so many Sanskrit words and explanations, and I thought, oh, how I wish I could understand all this. Well, now I do. It just takes time. And it's because the more I read, the more it sinks in, like you said. So in my opinion, one verse a day in the morning or evening class is not enough.
Yeah.
One mouthful of food per day enough for you? One mouthful. No. Okay. To get nourishment, read the chapter of the verses to see the context. Then read the purports of the ones that catch your eye. Read what interests you. If you make the effort, Krishna within your heart will give you understanding. This is what sincerity looks like. And we're not illiterate. We don't need to go to a temple to hear scripture, right? We can read it ourselves. But if we don't read, we're no better than someone who can't read. So there you go.
It's true. And with this point that you said, like that Krishna helps in understanding, in the sense we can say that reading transcendental books is actually a mystical experience.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's what it is. And after you put the book down and you go do something, then you start having realizations. It's a process.
Yeah, totally. And what I like about Prabhupada's books, and especially when they say, oh, they're so difficult to understand, well, yeah, they are sometimes, because it's something that you encounter for the first time. I mean, whatever you read for the first time, whether it's physics, mathematics, which you learned in school, when you just started, it was like, oh my God, what is that? But then in time, you learned what it is. So anyway, what I like is like you read it, but then you read it again, and then like so many things, new things open up. And it's very. That's also the mystical process of reading transcendental revelations. Yes, they happen constantly. So that's very nice. Yeah. So again, with the practical things, how do you study the Shastras? What is your way? Do you make notes? You said that you do actually, but did you develop some specific way in which you make the notes while you read? Can you tell us a little bit, some tips?
Okay. Well, when I'm invited to give a class on a specific verse, I read the verse and the purport and then the chapter. And then I think about what other scriptural references support what is being said. And so I look them up in Prabhupada.io or vaniquotes.org. These are my best sources. Mm-hmm. If I think of a verse from Bhagavad Gita, but I don't know the number and the chapter, then I think of a phrase in that verse. I type it in to the search, and then I put asitis.com afterwards. Mm-hmm. That website will show the chapter and the verse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I take the chapter and verse and go to Prabhupada.io. He's got all the diacritics and everything there. Mm-hmm. So that's how I do the online research. And yeah, I make notes when I'm reading. It's very helpful in understanding the science of bhakti. This is not just belief.
Yes.
This is knowing. Okay, this science. Yeah, my specific way of making notes: subject, categories, then Sanskrit terms and their definitions. Sometimes I make a diagram like a mind map, you know, and then I put this over here and then put just so that I can comprehend it, wrap my head around it, and try to visualize it. What is the main subject? What are the subsections? I try to categorize it in my head just so that I can understand it. Now later on, then I explain it like that.
Yeah, we should try to do what's like. Maybe various people have various tools on how to remember things, but the main point is that we should use them all, like in our study of the Shastras as well, because as you said, it's also a science, and it's not only a belief, so it's deep knowledge. Yeah, it's very good to learn it in that way. And what strategies do you employ to deeply absorb in what you are reading?
Okay. Here's the technique. If you read something out loud once, it's the same as reading it 3 times.
Interesting.
So you read it out loud to yourself. So, and then it's like reading it 3 times. And then that's the importance of recitation. But if you want to remember something, you repeat it 3 times out loud. Then you pick the number. So those are 2 techniques that you can learn.
And okay, so but anyway, what you said there, it's really practical with all of this that you shared with us. And maybe some final advice that you can share for improving our reading practice, if you can maybe.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to share with you my opinion editorial comments, right? Prabhupada was never wrong about anything, ever. Okay. So here's my realization. And the title of my piece is, quote, Prabhupada was wrong, end quote. Right? This is something that somebody in a podcast said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that devotee, quote unquote, right? The devotee being interviewed said this during a podcast. It seems like the guy considers himself a brilliant wit. Well, I would admit he's probably half right. And the host was smiling and nodding, and his eyes were bugging out of his head. Well, that really did it for me. I'll never watch those podcasts again. Really made me, I could see the mind waves in my mind were angry, right? And so I looked up this verse from Lord Krishna speaking to Uddhava. In the 11th canto, 17th chapter, 27th verse, Krishna says, one should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Okay, not only that, considering the bona fide spiritual master to be an ordinary man is listed in the Nectar of Devotion as the third offense in chanting the holy name. I guess Mr. Brilliant never had read that book. Srila Prabhupada never gets anything wrong. Now, I've been reading and listening to Prabhupada for half a century, okay? He never got anything wrong. Does Krishna get anything wrong in the Gita? He calls certain groups of people demoniac. Is he wrong? Should we be more inclusive and non-judgmental? Please. Every morning we sing, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastrit, Uktastatha Bhavyata Eva Sadvi, Kintu Prabhoya Priya Eva Tasya, Vande Guru Sri Charanaravind. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari, Krishna. So if anybody out there thinks that we have an aversion to granting Srila Prabhupada his humanity by assuming that he never makes a mistake, I have to point out to you that faith is the first stage of devotional service, Shraddha. Accepting the spiritual master based on his being a direct representative of the Lord is the beginning of faith. Mm-hmm. All right? And if listening to the rascal mind is what passes for thinking outside the box, I'll pass. Have a nice day.
Yes, I totally understand. I also sometimes, when someone gives certain opinions about Srila Prabhupada that I don't like, I also have this need to say, I mean, what you said is definitely true. And anyway, maybe you know it better, this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, that even though if the literature that was composed by the great saints, even though it's imperfectly composed, and now I don't remember the part that goes, but anyway, it should be accepted as actually the highest truth, even though it has imperfections, and to how to say, and to look at these imperfections in a criticizing way is actually offending the great saints. So yeah.
Well, the default setting of the materially contaminated mind is to find fault.
Yeah.
The hardest thing that you can do is to create something that hasn't been done before, to do something that hasn't been done before. And the easiest thing to do is to stand on the sidelines and go, she forgot that. She didn't do that right. She should do it like this. Oh, what about that? Oh, that doesn't look right. It's so easy to find fault with something somebody else did, but to actually do it is hard because you have to get inspiration. You have to do some go where no one's gone before. I mean, so probably it's just so this is envy. This is what envy looks like. Envy of a superior is finding fault and criticizing him.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's very important to know, and also to read these books, but to read Prabhupada's books with faith. Like that's
yes, that this is the real stuff here, because Prabhupada was a walking encyclopedia. He when he would make a statement, he would give a Sanskrit verse or a line of Sanskrit from a shastra to support what he was saying. He did this all the time. So he never just made something up or just threw something out there. He was careful about what he presented and how he presented it. So to say that he's an ordinary human being and he makes mistakes, give me a break. I don't even want to see this person's face. I just really don't who the person who said this. And I'm not being slanderous because I'm not mentioning the name. But I've had it, I choose my association, and I don't have I'm not perfect woman. I don't have the patience to put up with that. Yeah, go over there and chase your tail in the corner. I'm going to read Prabhupada's books, okay?
Yeah. I mean, recently I read, I think it was in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that all this that happens in the way that you described is just one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga. So it should not surprise us. So it's it's a normal thing here in this day and age, right?
So I don't remember where we're at. We're in the prison house of the material world. So we're surrounded by convicts. We're surrounded by, miscreants. You're trying to find some kindness and goodness, and give me a break. The whole idea is to get out of the prison house.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason why we also read Prabhupada's books, so that we can go to the spiritual world and get, to become who we really are, the servants of Krishna.
To remember who we really are.
Yeah, thanks.
And you're good enough. Just keep moving forward, step by step, little by little. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just read.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. And finally, the final tip is that if you have, for us, our team, books are the basis, you have some advice how we can better spread this message of importance of reading and how books are the basis.
Keep doing what you're doing and don't quit. Okay? Quitters never win. Winners never quit. Don't quit. Just keep doing it. Do what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep encouraging people.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, for sharing a little bit about your life and about your tips and inspirations on how to be a better reader. And I hope that maybe in the future there will be other topics and that we will be able to talk about them as well. So thank you for your time. And I was really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Okay, if anybody's interested to hear some of my audio lectures or see my books, you can go to my website, barefootphilosopher.press. Barefootphilosopher.press. And a whole bunch of stuff on there that's really interesting and fun. And I've got an audio of scary tarot cards, scary tarot, and why you shouldn't be as scared of them. You can go there and see the little audio.
Yeah.
So, my latest book My latest book is about Pathway Through the Forest. We just finished it. It's coming out in April, and it's about how the tarot cards depict the process of self-realization, which is way out there. I had to get one of the GBCs to actually give me a go-ahead on that, because Bhaktivedanta Book Trust wasn't really sure they wanted to give me an okay. So I had to get one of my good associates to give me an okay. But there it is. We got it. So it'll be very fascinating.
Thank you. I actually looking forward to find the book and read it, because I was watching your a podcast with you, yes, from the Many Moons Sadhvi Sangha, where you were talking about tarot. It was really interesting. So thank you for sharing that. And it's very much connected with Krishna consciousness, and as you said, how to find a path through the forest of the material world. So we sometimes need tools to help us. So looking forward to that, and I wish you many more books that you write. Realizations, it's always good, and of course you can find courses that you do, also readings and some audios, right, on your webpage. So yeah, so barefootphilosophers.press, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Philosopher, no S.
Philosopher, sorry. Barefootphilosopher.press.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a nice title also. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,